What made you lose respect for someone? A few personal injury and workman's comp patients asked me to commit insurance fraud through false documentation, because nobody will know. GTFO. Gossiping underback about someone and then talking to this person like nothing happened. My best friend of 8 years has started to hang out with my childhood bully, smiley face, thumbs up. She's now going to the same university and hangs out with her nearly every other day while I only get the odd text here and there. When she wouldn't respect my thanks, but I'm married many times over. Female co-workers seem to get a pass on sexual harassment. Believe it or not, no means no even for men. Shocking, I know. I don't know if this counts, but here it is. A day before, I had a crazy fight with my crush, who didn't knew I had a crush on her at that time, since she insulted me in the library. What the insult was? Well, she said that I am kind of guy who don't know anything and just wasting my time in college. The next day, she came to me saying that she needed my help in physics, since I am really good at it. And as a fucking asshole and simp, I explained her whole physics that day by going to her home, 2 hours away from mine. And she passed the physics test. A few marks more than me she scored. Next time, she insulted me again for being a dumb after I made a silly mistake in maths. That's when I lost all the self-respect I had. Tried my level best to get out of that and might have improved myself, but still reminding myself of all that things make me punch myself. I did punched myself once because of that. 5 years may have passed since. And I have trained myself that I will not simp for anyone. I told my sister to hit me if I ever simp. I finally got to talk to my college crush, both of us English majors. She told me that she made money by writing other people's essays for them. I couldn't stomach it and lost interest in her immediately. They were the type of person to pick on the weaker man, while being submissive when around someone they perceived as stronger. That is very human, I guess, but it disgusts me when I see it expressed openly in others, and I can't get over it. My dad, as my boss, worked for him as a cashier/manager at fast food place. Told me I needed to cancel my COVID vaccine when it was hard to schedule and get because no one could cover for me. I thought he knew and would cover, and he thought I got someone to cover for me. He also said it was too far, 1.5 hours away, and that rescheduling it to a place closer is better. I told him I had the appointment 1 week in advance and the night before, and he also said he would give me the day off. My redneck cousin chose to keep her mother in a shitty nursing home because the nice home employed a nurse who my cousin referred to as a backstabbing bitch from high school. Turns out my cousin blew her boyfriend 20 years ago in high school, and the nurse lady was heartbroken about it. Cheating and lying about that even when promising to tell the truth. Seeing a golf foxtrot Yankee patch in a professional environment. I'm a helicopter pilot, and to see a fellow pilot have that really takes them down a notch. It's on the back of his flight helmet, so he's pretty much telling all his passengers to fuck themselves. Lost respect for my boss when she reprimanded me for being sick as she didn't have anyone to cover for me. I was a trainee back then, doing way more than the actual job description, and out for 2 weeks with a nasty sinus infection. I reported her to the authorities when I left, as there had been some other semi-legal to illegal things going on. Finding out they refused to wear a mask to the grocery store. I've learned a lot about people over the last year. If they are a Trumper. Telling me they support BJP. Mom's best friend needed to speak to me about something important with my parents. Ended up being a pushy MLM type opportunity. Pyramid scheme. Found out how superstitious and religious they were. Found out he disrespected and assaulted women. He victim blamed and admitted to catcalling and groping women. Being racist and voting for a party that is the worst party to vote for. But I guess he doesn't care about the people around him, so the voting bit didn't come as a very big surprise. He was a way worse human being than I expected and thought I knew. We were friends in elementary, and he is the only one I still am in contact with. Sad to see him being one of those people. Glad I know now. Friend A was pursing a girl who wasn't interested. She flew down to Florida to spend her vacation with friend B and they ended up hooking up, which was pretty obviously the intent on both their parts. Friend A blew up the entire circle proclaiming that friend B raped the girl. This is not the first time this has happened. He tried to pull the same one friend C a few years back, fracturing the group. Friend B and friend C are now in extremely happy and prosperous relationships with their supposed victims, and both couples are adamantly vocal that nothing shady happened, but friend A continues to insist that anyone who doesn't #believe all women is basically an accomplice to rape. Guess who doesn't have many friends left? My dad abandoned my family right around when my mom's Parkinson's disease was starting to get the best of her. TLDR, my boss didn't care that a kid was being bullied. Somewhat of a long story, but I was working for a high school and helping to teach their marching band. This particular member of the band was not as good as everyone else and didn't catch on as quick. The director usually yelled at him for not being as good. This is a competition band for anyone who's wondering, so it's pretty cutthroat. Anyways, later on in the season, I helped the kid be better and he got better. However, the director still thought he was bad because he had the image of him from the beginning of the season rather than where he was now. Since the director yelled at him so much, the other students decided it was okay to do this too. Which honestly, how would they know any better if that's all they heard from their teacher? So I brought this up with the director with another staff member who was equally as concerned, and the director said, "I don't really care, he is quitting next year anyways." So yeah, that was pretty much it for that. No matter how much you dislike someone, you don't ignore bullying. And good on the kid for quitting too, because I wouldn't want to be a part of that either. In fact, I quit that year too. Used to sell weed back in the day. Over 10 years ago. One of my buddies wanted to sell some, but didn't want to run his own op. I said I would sell it for him. Another one of my buddies was staying at my house at the time, also wanted to sell it for him, was pushing for it hard. Buddy that was trying to sell says to me, "Sorry man, I just trust him more." Buddy that ended up selling the weed pinched every sack, peddling $10 bags for $20. You can imagine how difficult it was to sell. After not selling much for a week, the buddy that was selling for other buddy just said fuck it and smoked the rest. SRI man, I more. They both lost my respect. The peddler lost my trust as well. When they say they're animal lovers but proceed to stuff their face with dead bodies of animals. Almost everyone on my dad's side of the family. My brother died suddenly back in October at the age of 34. A huge chunk of my dad's side didn't show up to the funeral or even reach out at all. Another chunk of my dad's side defended them because they were busy, and how dare we get mad at them for it. Fuck all of that. They all live in the area mid-Michigan, one even lives next door to my dad. My stepsister drove 11 hours from Maryland. My cousin flew from Texas. My aunt and uncle flew from California. A friend drove from Detroit, and my boss and co-worker drove 3 hours for a 5-minute visit. You make time for something like this. Found out that the cool aunt on my dad's side had actually spent decades being a complete terror to my mom ever since my parents first met, likely at least in part for racist reasons. I didn't know any of this until adulthood because my mom made sure to hide it from me so I could have a good relationship with my aunt and cousins and not end up on the outs like she did. I no longer think my aunt is cool. He was getting more and more sexist and racist. Throwing constant pity parties for himself, refusing to do anything about his situation other than complain, and if you bring up even one of your own issues, he will tell you that it's nothing compared to his. This question, I lost respect for you fellow stranger tongue. Life. A used to be friend of mine told me she cheated on her BF who was a very close friend to me, and she didn't want me telling him. At that moment I told her she needs to be honest with him, and she kept refusing, so I told her to never contact me again. Let's see, racism, stupid opinions, hurting others, irresponsibility, like driving drunk or high. Mom's cousin commented on FB that she'd been attacked by a privileged 20-something who never had to work for anything and had everything handed to them. She didn't name names, but this was right after my sister very politely pushed back against her racist comment on my sister's own post. It hurt to know that's how she views us. Lack of empathy or considering others in their actions. A guy that everyone loved that worked at the bar I worked at had severely beaten and tried to rape a woman, and it didn't come out until years later. Personally, I really loved this person and it really broke my heart to know he had done such a heinous thing. I eventually lost respect for the people that chose to continue to associate with him after he had admitted to doing it, but it wasn't as bad as everyone thinks. Which is hard to believe considering the woman he assaulted now has a bald spot where he yanked all of her hair out while punching her in the face.